Right, so tonight we're going to be working on a new front-end component to allow us to doodle on a canvas and then present that as a data URL that we'll eventually send to the backend as our password, user's password. So uh, we're going to be writing a component that wraps an HTML canvas. We're going to be drawing onto that canvas. Last night we had an idea that um, we have this like concept of, you've got a certain amount of ink that you're supposed to lay down on the canvas. Reason for that was we kind of noticed if I take the same background image and draw using a very fine pen over top different designs, they end up getting calculated to be fairly similar because most of the background is still showing. And you have like a 1 pixel stroke going through the image. So we we'll probably end up fattening that stroke a bit and at the same time requiring that the user doodle enough. Now, we don't want to go too far, and we have kind of the opposite problem where now there isn't enough of the background image and it's mostly a color, and then our similarity algorithm, doesn't work. So that said, let's get started. So we're going to be switching gears a little bit. We don't have, we're not going to be working with the API or the backend or anything. It's all going to be Vue tonight. So what we have so far is basically the, Vue 3 scaffolded default application that I've just brought Tailwind CSS into. So for now, we're going to do everything right out of that. I'll go ahead and make a component, but we're not going to like set up a Vue router or anything like that. So first thing is we need to decide what we want to call the thing. So probably like doodle password or something like that would be good. Yeah, we'll call it a doodle password. So doodle password Vue, and I'm still getting used to Vue 3. So we're going to try to use Vue 3 concepts as much as possible. So the composition API, which means we'll just have a setup function here that takes props and returns state that's available to our template. This different than the options API, which has the standard data returns something. You could have methods, computer props, like all those things. So yeah. So we've got our setup function. We know we're going to have a canvas. We're not going to have any fallback content. And also, in a perfect world, this canvas would like match the size of the doodle password, and doodle password would always expand to fill its container. But I do know that if you don't say within a height on a canvas, I think it's like 300 pixels wide, 150 tall. And if you stretch it with CSS, it distorts the image. So we'll probably end up needing to bind like width and height, and then let in JavaScript figure out how big the box should be, and then tell this to kind of blow up full height. But for now, I'm not gonna. We'll handle all that crap in a future stream. I'm gonna keep this simple and just hard focused on functionality. So probably the first thing I want to do is just get so we can draw onto this canvas. So in Vue 2, I would use a ref, and I call this like canvas. I remember there's something changed in Vue 3 with refs, so let me look that up real quick. And I may be misremembering, but let's see, template refs. Okay. So there isn't like a, let's see. This is interesting. So it isn't like a like this dot dollar refs dot root or anymore. You instead just return your ref, bind it here, which is, it's interesting that this isn't using like a vbind or colon syntax. It just kind of magics its way into existence. So we'll need to do that instead. So if I come back over to VS Code, we'll go ahead and make us a ref. Import ref from view. Const canvas equals ref null. We'll return canvas, and then we'll have it bound up there. And now this should be our element. So I pulled up the MDN documentation on the Canvas API to kind of give us, you know, some hints or whatever. So canvas in our setup method will be a DOM element, so we don't need to do this step, but we do need to get a rendering context, which is what this is doing. My understanding is like 2D is what we're going to be using, but there are other rendering contexts like WebGL and OpenGLES or you know, whatever that you could grab and do like 3D rendering and stuff like that. How about we go ahead and like just rip all of this so we can see a green box. So that'll give me my context. I hate when developers abbreviate shit like this. It's like you save a few characters, but I have a feeling like every tutorial or whatever on the web is going to make this abbreviation. So it's whatever, but I don't get it. I don't understand. All right, so we've got something that should show a green box. So let's come back over to app, and we're going to take away everything except for our doodle password. Something else I want to figure out is when this extension auto imports all this stuff, I want it to start using these, like instead of doing it relative to the current file, put my path mapping stuff in there, but we can make that change for now. It also messes this up a lot. But all right, so npm run serve. And again, this is, we know this 2 streams ago, but this is going to use concurrently to compile our Tailwind CSS and run the view server at the same time. So when we save, you'll actually see like Tailwind recognizes a change, and then the view dev server does the same thing. The little pop-up there is DNS mask trying to start. I've got it set up to route the VM domain to local VMs that I have. We're not using any of that right now, but every time I boot this machine, it does that. And I go in and allow it, and it just doesn't care. All right, so this is useful. So we forgot a few things. This is kind of meh. We're going to use that. I really don't like that ESLint rule. This one's awesome though. We forgot to use, since Canvas is a ref, we have to remember to use .value to get our, to actually access the value of that ref. So we did that. Now let's go look, and with any luck, we have a green box. We don't have a green box, so we didn't have any luck. Do we get an error? Cannot read properties of null reading get context. Okay, so that makes sense. So what we probably need to do is put all of this in like an on mount hook. So on mounted. And we're just gonna roll, like write everything in the setup method for now. I do think we'll end up extracting some of this stuff out. But look at that, we got a green box. So that's good. Now, let's not do that. But I want to set some like border on this just so we see the box. Come on now. I'm going to end up disabling that for my own sanity. And something else we're going to go ahead and do is just get this side by side. We don't need a lot of space because we don't have a big boy yet. Okay, so what I want to be able to do is when I click down, I start drawing or whatever. So the first thing is we need to figure out how to draw on this. There's two ways. Well, there's a lot of different ways. You can draw rectangles and circles, I think. These are two primitives. Maybe rectangles and arcs. But let's see. Drawing shapes. So the first thing is your coordinate grid starts with 0, 0 in the top left and works down. So I have to remember that. Fill rect. So this is our rectangle drawing API, which we do not need. Paths is another way we could go. This might be an interesting way to go. The idea would be when we click down, we start building up a path, and when we let go, we stroke it or fill it. The interesting thing there is, like, if we can get it to do kind of a Bezier curve or something like that, it'll look, I don't know, it'll look more clean, I guess. But at the same time, if you're doodling and you want to have some raw in there, you'll lose that with the path stuff. So this may end up being more annoying than it's worth. So they have an example. If there is no like draw triangle function, they're using paths to do this. So it's kind of like begin path. Move to is like you pick your pen up and move to that coordinate. And then you draw a line to, fill, and this is what you get. So I don't think you have to move it back to your starting point. If you fill, it'll like connect the starting and end, current starting and end points, and you'll get a shape. Okay, so we arcs. This is probably what we're going to end up using because we want to draw a circle. I thought was like, you know, instead of trying to do this curve stuff, the first implementation we use will be like, as you draw it, drag it around, we're going to draw a circle that follows the mouse cursor or whatever. And every draw, every blit will be, you'll use one ink, and then that'll creep up, and then we'll set a max ink on the component as a prop. So let's see. Why do they have this begin path? Is the arc technically part of a path? Maybe it is. Shrug. Let's just try to use it. See what happens. To the current subpath. So maybe you do have to use a path. We'll try to use it and see what happens. It'll probably break. So draw it at 10, 10, blue 20, make it 5, start at 0, end at pi times 2. And I don't think the counterclockwise thing matters, but what does that even mean? Draws the arc counterclockwise starting. Okay, since we're going full, it doesn't matter which way we go. Oh, I need to do math.py. Math.py. Did that do anything? Doesn't look like it did. What if we have an error? Okay, we don't. So if we do it wrong, we're not going to get an error. So let's do it the right way. Context begin path, and then context stroke. There it is. All right. So what if we want to fill that? Fill. Look at that. So imagine you're dragging the mouse around and we're just like doing this thing all day, every day. So this one will definitely like, we'll wrap this into like a draw circle function or something. so that we're not having to like duplicate this code all over the place. But some interesting thoughts that we may or may not implement. Maybe bigger circles use more ink. Maybe your stroke size is a factor you can change, just like we're going to allow them to change their background image. Maybe color is a factor that can change. And all of those would factor into that similarity comparison at the end, which might be kind of neat. Okay. So let's get ourselves drawing a bit. So we'll say draw, function draw circle, and we'll do an XY. We'll leave the radius static for now. And then we'll say X, Y, 2020. And it should be the same. And it is. So good, we got a little free refactor there. I don't like that, we may change this. I don't like having this, like, this is gonna start looking pretty gnarly, or whatever, but it is what it is. If I define this outside the scope of this function, I'll have to pass in the context, which is fine, but right now we'll never use this anywhere else outside of this component, so this can be ugly as hell and it'll be okay. No one will die. So I'm not sure that this is really the right place to do like our mouse events and all that, but we'll roll with it. So I'm gonna attach let's see. We're gonna attach some event listeners to this. So add event listener. I forget what these are, and And the other thing is we're gonna need to attach named functions here so we can remove them when the component's destroyed. But this will be for start draw. This will be for while drawing, draw circles at mouse pointer. And this will be for releasing pen. So draw pen, start drawing. I don't know. These comments here are removed, so it doesn't matter. What is this complaining about? Oh. Must use value, okay. That's gonna get really annoying. I wonder if we could do something like. First, I want to see if this is going to even try to do that. So I think it's actually on unmount. Nice. I wish we could get this to recognize that it is a DOM element. There's probably like a JS doc we could do for that, but I'm not going to worry about it. MDN remove event listeners. I want to remove all event listeners. I'm pretty sure there's a way to do it, but remove all event listeners type. Say all don't even care about type. Just want them all gone. Oh god, no. We're not going to clone the node. I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah, we're not doing that. We'll give it one more click. Oh, cheating. That's clone node. This is probably going to say do it the right way. Yep. Do it the right way, you know. Okay. So that just means we need to declare these functions outside. So we'll say function on mouse down. See, the stupid thing is that like it's gonna complain about this variable not being used, but I mean, yeah, I haven't written any code yet. JavaScript on mouse up. Is that a thing? That is a thing. All right, so I'll actually need access to these inside of the on unmounted. And I bet I could do crazy shit like just register the on unmounted in here. But I'm gonna go ahead and move that out. It's hard because like I'm gonna need access to this draw circle function. So we'll probably end up moving that out too. This is one of those like, it's not a, my brain's like locking up because I'm thinking like, what's the right way to do this? When it really doesn't matter all that much. Tell you what, let's just do it inside of there and see what happens. We're not gonna draw a circle anymore. I guess the neat thing is it'll read pretty well. Because it'll be like, here's where we're registering all these, and here's where we unregister them, or whatever. Okay, so E, we need to say DM mouse move event, and I think it's like e.target.x or something. Offset maybe. This is the example we're building. That's awesome. So we're not going to cheat, but maybe we'll cheat. We're using draw line with a pixel. Okay. Interesting. So this is really just like a ton of very, 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 very small lines all over the place. I kind of like that. We'll see how it goes, but like the cool thing is like we'll be able to we'll change our draw implementation or whatever. Maybe this becomes just draw point, draw pin, whatever. Okay. So it looks like offset is what we want, maybe. Yeah. Okay. So draw a circle e dot offset x e dot offset y, and we only want to draw this if our mouse is down. So let's add a boolean. Now I don't think there's any, this doesn't need to be reactive state or anything like that, because we're never going to have like logic that's based on outside of this is based on whether their cursor's down. So we'll say drawing is false to start out with. If on mouse down, drawing is true. On mouse up, drawing is false. And if we're drawing, then we draw a circle. Otherwise, what would happen is any mouse move across that canvas would draw something. Oh, gotta make this let. This can't be constant. Look at that. So if you move it fast, you get this like effect where you see the circles or whatever. So that's probably where the line implementation is better. But yeah. Let's see. All right. So kind of don't like this because I don't like seeing the separation there. So I think the line is the way to go. And I only know that because of this random example here. Like this is a much more like the experience I kind of wanted to have. So let's come back and be like, this is no longer draw a circle, it's just draw. And now we can just change the implementation however we want. So, good on Mozilla for spelling that shit out. You know what? We don't have to comply. We can just do whatever we want. We can make that context too. Now we aren't going to use these semicolons because that shit's gross. But to do this, we'll have to capture these offsets now. So we'll say this is x2, y2, x1, y1. Actually, you know what? Let's get all calculus on this. This is dx, dy. Which I'm pretty sure doesn't make any sense at all, but you know. So I still want our line width to be like that radius of 5 or whatever, so it's, you know, thick. All right, so we'll say x, y, line to dx, dy. So this is like delta x, delta y. And then we'll stroke and close the path. So each one of these is like a super small path. And now when we do this, we'll basically do the same thing they're doing here, where they track like the current x and y position and set it. So this ends up being like a memento. Man, I like this too. Like this is a much better variable name than just drawing. So we're gonna go ahead and steal that too. Just fine. That's, you know, it's like 40% of programming. It's a lot higher than that, but all right, so let's go ahead and make our variables for x and y. X, y equals 0. And on mouse down, it'll be the offsets. It's wherever you're at. So x will equal e dot offset x. Y will equal e dot offset y. We'll bring in e. Here, we'll do this. Where it's x, y, and the offset. So it's your previous position and the next, and then we update the current position to be the previous to be the next. And I think they reset these to 0 here. What would be the importance of doing that? You could just leave them. Maybe it's just to get it back to an initial value. You'd almost think like null would be a better choice. We'll do that. So these will be null whenever whenever you lift up. So the thought is like I lift up off the page, my x and y coordinate isn't there. It doesn't like magically move to the top left. That'll probably come back and bite us, and it really doesn't matter. It's a non-functional thing. So now what happens when I draw? don't see anything. Do I get errors? I do. Can I read properties of null? But where? Mouse up one. I don't get it. Oh, okay. So this is probably, this is interesting, but it's not quite what we're looking for. So what am I doing? Oh, this is in mouse move. That's not what we want. We want this. Yeah. Better. But so theirs looks okay because of that thin stroke. We're getting, you know, it's like one wide. If you drag it, it's like, okay, this looks cool, but when you drag it down, you get this like anti-alias thing or whatever. So honestly though, let's just chalk this up to polish the shit later. Um, we've achieved, like, this works. This is fine. Although after doing this, I like this the circles better. I just wish to fix that we would have to like change the rate at which we blit so that it's faster. You would have to make it not dependent solely on mouse move, or you'd have to do some kind of like between the 2 points, put an arc in there to kind of hide some of the places where they don't overlap or something like that. So let's polish the drawing graphics so that they aren't as janky looking in the Doodle password. So we can come back. We'll probably accrue a bunch of these types of tasks as we work. And maybe we'll have a stream where we just kind of do a bunch of grab bag things. But this whole like this practice of, you know, we could sit here and play around with this all day, but the fact is I'd like to get through getting our background images blitted on and get our data URI updating so that we have like the MVP for the component. Anyway, I've got to step away for about 4 or 5 minutes, and I'll be back. And we'll go ahead and start on the background images. All right, be right back. All right, I'm back. All right, so we're gonna do our background images. Um, so the way I kind of imagined that going was we'd have some controls on the top right, and I'm not gonna focus at all on polish right now. This is gonna look like absolute trash, but we really just need kind of like a icon or something that's pretty obvious, like refresh, and it goes to the next one. We're also going to square this up. I want to find images that are all just squares because I think that's just. I said we're not polishing, but that's going to be the most aesthetic looking thing when it comes to actually plugging this into the production app. Um, so right now, let's just hard code this to 300 height, 300. So that we have this square area to draw in. When you don't look at it too much, it actually looks pretty damn good as is. Um, don't focus on it. Move on. Do something else. Um, but yeah. Okay. So the first question popping into my head is like, how do I want to store these? Like, where do I want to put them? We've got some of these backgrounds already. Like, let's so stock photos free. I forget the name of the site. It's like Unsplash. Yeah. I like landscapes. Landscapes. But I want them to be super small. Ooh, look at that. Square. Okay. Like this. Let's do this. This will be funny. Someone will, give it a face or something. So there's one. Oh my god, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. Doodles. We'll resize these in preview. This might be funny. Okay. I'll give him a shout out. Let's just go with 2 for now. So this is Tiger. This is Earth. All right. Open, reveal and finder. So let's get these down to oh, it opened it in the other screen. Let's get these down to 300 pixels. So the file should be somewhere in here. Just size 300. So much better. All right, yeah. So now these are, 31 kilobyte instead of megs. All right. So we've got our images. The next thing is figure out how to actually draw them on the canvas. So let's go back to the Canvas API. There was a section on drawing images. Yeah. All right. I'm honestly not even sure how these show up. Like if I go to Doodles, Tiger, this work? Nope. Yeah. So my thought process was, oh, okay, I'll just, yeah, we'll new up an image and like set the source to the URL or whatever. Can always do our trusty data URIs. I don't really care how we do it right now. I'd like to just have the image and not have this intermediary format it goes through. But yeah, I don't really care. Let's try this. I wonder what happens if I try to import a picture. Import Earth from assets doodles earth.jpg. Right, freaks out. How would that even, like, what would that even be? Webpack's gonna turn it into something. Let's try to console log it. Huh? Oh. Alright, so what if I did something like on mount? This is just, you know, crap code, but I want to try, I want to play. So const image equals new image. Image dot source equals earth. And this dot L add child. Can't read properties if undefined. Is that not a thing in Vue 3? Interesting. Vue 3 L. How to get the component element. Add sibling. Is that a thing? Insert adjacent element. I like that. That means we can do, I don't have to put a ref on the root. Just kind of hack this, because this isn't real code that we're doing. We just want to see how this image kind of pans out. Two organs for only one. Did I do that wrong? Position. Say after. After end. Go. Okay. Okay. Now, what happens if I do just Earth, right? So, like, if I just said Earth, is this actually like an image? No. No. Okay, so this Earth ends up being like path to Earth or whatever. Okay, so what we're going to have, this is going to look really, really weird, but we'll import tiger background. We'll just say, let's keep it simple. Backgrounds. We'll say backdrops. Sounds better. Backdrops equals Earth tiger. And we'll just have it pick a random one out of the list. Maybe. Um, so this one, do we want this to be reactive? Probably. So we'll say constant current backdrop equals ref, and we'll say it's 0. So it's always going to start off with Earth. And then we'll set this to a random number between, you know, one of these, it'll be one of these elements, and that's how we'll index back out. So const current backdrop will be a computed prop that is backdrops current backdrop index. And I think we basically want to, I can't remember if it's watch or watch effect, which is, you know, the one we're supposed to want to use. Viewed versus watched. No, I want the view 3 guide. Okay, so my understanding is computed is more about like declarative state based on other refs changing, whereas a watcher is more about like side effects, not resolving new state per se, which is what we're doing. When this backdrop changes, we're basically going to clear our canvas and blit the current backdrop onto it. Okay, so we'll do a watch effect. We'll start it here. Watch effect. So this will basically just make our image, and we'll say this is equal to current backdrop dot value. We may not want that computer prop long term because this will be the only place that's set, right? Yeah, so let's just drop this. We don't need this complexity. Now, we're going to have a change backdrop. We'll say random backdrop. This function is going to be provided to the template, so we need to remember to pop it out down there. But this will set current backdrop index dot value equal to math random backdrops. Like, so this is going to be the random between 0 and 1. Almost pick random array element index. Yeah, this is what I want. This will be backdrops. Okay. So I'm gonna put our, we're gonna have like a toolbar of these things too, eventually. So I'm gonna go ahead and make us a div that is that toolbar. And since, you know, since we're using Tailwind, normally you might be like, okay, well, I guess actually we could just say we got an ID here. We're never gonna use this ID for anything, but this could like semantically identify that. If we're being like super good, we should also have like ARIA keys on this to describe it as a menu and, you know, all that, but we'll get there. So the first is going to be a button that just says random background. I want this to be an icon, but for now it's just going to be a button. And we'll say click random backdrop. We'll go back and look. Computer is defined but never used. We are going to disable that. It is really annoying. Alright, so we have to assume it's setting a random backdrop and value, and then we assume that this image is getting there. So the next thing we need to do is actually flip this onto our canvas. So let's go back and look at how to do that. MDN canvas API. All right, using images. Draw image at 0, 0. So since we've made these the same size as our canvas, we'll have an easier time doing this. But eventually we'll probably end up needing to scale. So we can add that when we get to that point. So I should be able to just draw, and it'll draw over top of everything. We don't have to do like reset canvas then draw. So context, draw image, our image at 0, 0. Okay, so that's not working. Let's refresh. Why isn't that working? So first thing is, let's make sure our click handler is working. So come over here. Let's look at refresh, doodle password. It's not showing me my stuff. It's probably because this isn't actually popped out there. So what we can do is instead watch fired, and we'll console log. Let's see. X value. X dot value. Let's see what that says, if anything. Nothing. There it is. Okay. So it is set in 010101. Let's console log our image. Console log image. We need to figure out what's going on with that error. So it's loading them. But alas, when we draw image, the shit don't work. Let's see. We're doing something wrong. wonder if I need to specify the width. Let's try it. I can't, ooh, look at this, I can't draw here anymore. So we broke something. Let's comment this. Let's get back to a working state. Still broken. We have error messages. I think it's that error message. So now if I make a change here and it like unmounts it, let's get it to make that error message again. So cannot read all properties of null. So this canvas.value gets destroyed. So we need to say before. This is on before unmounted. We need to do that. Because by the time this fires, the canvas is gone. So that should get rid of our error. I think we're hitting that error and it's just it's clouding our other stuff. So now what's interesting is, see it's firing. So what's gonna be nice about that is that watch effect fires, we should go ahead and get an image. We're just not right now. And it's gonna be something we're not doing right with the Canvas API. But I'm not sure what else to do. We're using it like it's meant to be used. So let's hit old Google. Canvas draw image not working. Give the image time to load before drawing it. I mean, I'm down. And that does make sense. So that should be on load. Like that. Oh, that's beautiful. And we can draw on top of it. So the unfortunate thing is you get this effect where it's like, you know, it's picking a random number. Well, sometimes, you know, there's only two of them. Sometimes you're going to roll more heads than you roll tails. But this is promising. So let's change this to a more annoying color. We'll make it red. Actually, hold on. Is pink a thing? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we're in good shape right now. Let's make a task to just add it here. We'll say it's polishing the doodle password. Improve the pen stroke so that it isn't as janky looking. Instead of improve the randomness of random backdrop so that it never uses the current index. And there's going to be a fancy one-liner to do that, I'm sure. Okay. safe note. So now the last thing is we need to get our data URI stuff hooked up. So this is where we need to think. Doodle password is just going to be a graphical component. It's not gonna. This is not gonna, try to log in anywhere or whatever. So it's like, what's the best interface for us to get the current data URI for what's been drawn? So there's two ways. We could have a prop, or in View 3 a V model bound, like a synced prop, or we can use events, or we can have both. My heart is saying make it a V model bound thing. The only issue with that is that this is a one-way thing. We aren't going to ever we aren't expecting to be fed a doodle, so that's kind of making me think no, it's really more about an event. So let's do an event. So we'll say released, or we'll call it with a better name later, but it's basically, I would like to have something that's like, I'm finished doodling, I'm finished, more that's like in that space, that name in space, not like submit or done or something like that. So what we're gonna do is old habits. We're gonna do the setup. So again, I will need a const data URL equals ref. This will be null, and then what we're gonna do is just render this below. Data URL. Give this a little bit of styling. PG gray 50, text gray 800, P2 order. And then we will return data URL. All right, so when I finish, I'll say it'll be data URL equals E. And E will be the value of the data URL. All right, so now let's go back to our doodle password. Let's pop that back in there so I get autocomplete again. I'm gonna go figure that out off stream. But I'm very used to doing @ for everything so that I can move components around and stuff. So I don't want a bunch of relative paths flying around. All right, so when do we publish this event? So it'd be when mouse up, we'll publish the event, and at the end of this draw image, we would publish the event. So for now, we'll just keep it simple, and we'll have that duplicated in 2 places. So we'll say this emit. I'm not even sure this is how this is supposed to work, but I'm guessing it is. So we need to know how to get the data URL off of our context. So let's go back to the context API, data URL. Just gonna get canvas data URL. So this is straight up off the canvas. Jump down. Yeah, okay. So this will be canvas to data URL, and then we'll have the same thing. The fuck? That? Cool. All right. Let's go back over here. Refresh. So we've got to have some errors. This dot emit is not a function. I bet it's a composable we need to bring in, but view 3 emit. It'll be in the docs, I bet. Custom events. It's probably because we're inside of that function or whatever. So we're gonna have to refine our Google foo here. So it used to be like view 3 composition API emit. Where's this coming from? Oh, that's nifty. Well, here's the problem. I'm gonna do this. I don't have props, and ESLint's gonna shit the bed. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this now. ESLint disable blah. Nope. Can I just say it? That's what I want. That's what I want right there. And there should already be like a section in package.json for fucking around with the ESLint. Yeah. Look at that. Boom. I don't know what any of these mean. Did it fix it though? Okay, so we've still got an error somewhere, I think. Oh, we didn't change our code. So yeah, we've still got an error. So we'll do emit. I like this a lot better. I like this a hell of a lot better. Look at that. Tailwind CSS. Go Google. Docs. Wrap. Text wrap. I wanted, let's see, preserve no specific blah. More like force wrap, you know? What's that called? CSS force wrap thing without spaces. This is gonna be example around blah, 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 blah. Word wrap break word. So what's that in Tailwind? Is that a thing? Break word. Oh, it's just break words. Words. We'll say this is with 64. That obviously did not work. Oh well. I don't really care. I mean, we can do this and see that it changes, and then I can draw on it and see that it changes. And that's all that matters. So we're good. And technically I should be able to take this Actually, let's do this. Let's do this. So I should be able to also have an image down here where I bind that to it, and it should be a copy of what we have above it, right? Look at that. So that's a mission successful. Um, I want to clean up a few things. I'm not going to polish too much of this because I really just wanted basic functionality tonight. We're going to keep on moving. But I'm going to go ahead and bring in a library for doing icons. And what I like to use for icons, the same folks that do Tailwind CSS, Tailwind Labs has a product called Hero Icons. And these are great. They're very high quality. And I wrote, along with, I'm sure there's other people that have written the same damn package, but I wrote a package for bringing these into a view app. So we're going to go ahead and use that. So npmi view hero icon. Next. Don't need that to be a production dependency. So yeah, the way this will work is we import it, and then you can use them just like this, and the names will match what's in the HeroCon's website. So what we're looking for is like a, that might work. Reset. We'll go refresh. So we'll pick maybe this one and do a solid instead of the outline. So I can come into doodle password now, and where this button is, we'll instead say as a title, and then we'll do an icon inside of here. So more icon from view here, icon next, components, icon, and then icon name equals refresh, solid, we'll say width 6 height 6, text. Let's see what the text just looks like by default. Is it not running? Oh wait, let's get it running again. Cool. So let's get this styled a little bit better. So we'll say this has a position relative on it. And we'll pin a toolbar to the top right. So this is absolute top, say top 2, right 2. What did I mess up? Oh, it's an ID. That's not what we want. Actually, I'll take that ID off because I'm much more used to just putting a comment in here. Bar. And that'd be good enough. Oh, it's the wrong color. So let's see. So the obvious thing is make this white. Looks all right. When we do this for real, like, I kind of want this to be a stylized button-looking thing and have hover effects and all that, but we're gonna have a lot of that hanging around, and we're gonna end up with an explicit button component where we do all our like styling of buttons, buttony things, and it'll probably have like an icon prop on it that'll use this library, but we'll just pass it refresh. Within that button component will control like the styling and all of that of it. So yeah, I think we're good. I gotta look at this one more time. So now we've got we can refresh the background image to whatever we want it to be. We've got a task to come back here and make it so our, random background, doesn't pick the one it's already on, so you don't get this like, I'm clicking it, why isn't it working? We get a data URI that we'll be able to send to the backend as a password, and when we draw, it updates, and we know it's good because we have an image that's using that data URL. So that's pretty good for tonight, and maybe like 30 or so minutes work. The looking through here, there is some cleanup, I think, to do, but it's not bad. And this is one of those things where, like, once we get, it's not going to change all that much. Like, we're going to come back in and style a few things, but this behavior won't change a whole lot. I think maybe the most complex it might get is we maybe have a prop where you can pass in the backgrounds or whatever, but even that is like, I think I'd almost rather write that as I drop a file in here and I use Resolve or Webpack to just load everything in that directory, populate this statically, and then it's good. No other app is ever going to use this, so it doesn't need to be too configurable. But yeah, I think off stream I'm gonna go do some more research on like go find some projects that are using the composition API, or go look at some React examples and how that community's kind of evolved. Some of the like where to place watch effects. Is it okay to place that in the middle of an on-mounted hook? How are people dealing with DOM event listeners and teardown and all that? Like, is it okay to put the on before mount or on before unmount inside of an on-mounted? Because I know technically it all works. Because like when these are called, you've got like Vue has this like global variable that's tracking the current component instance that this function's called in. So it technically doesn't matter where you call these at all. Like, really, we could take all of these and wrap them in kind of a use doodle password function or whatever. And then what will return out the back here is maybe the canvas. Actually, we wouldn't even expose the canvas. It'd just be the I guess we could say the canvas and the random backdrop or whatever. Actually, we're not even using that anymore, right? Random back. Oh yeah, the function. So yeah, we'd return this method out so that you can hook it into the DOM or whatever. But the fact that these on-mounted hooks are called inside that function, it wouldn't matter. Wouldn't care. But for now, I'm gonna just leave this. I was thinking, I'll go ahead and clean this up, but I think it's fine. And we'd just be shuffling code around anyway. We only have one component in the whole damn thing at this point, so. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this in this state too. Obviously, this is not, what our final product's gonna look like, but it's just cool. It's the simple stuff. But anyway, let's go get our stuff committed. So we actually did a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Usually I'm better about committing things as I'm working. So package, depend on new hero icon. Say add source components, source asset. Create a component for managing our doodle passwords. And a lot of the polish we've tracked in the board or whatever, there'll be more of that when we go to actually plug this into an actual like login page and like account settings page and stuff like that. So, but it's one of those, it's kind of like the, premature generalization or premature abstraction. Like we don't know really how we're going to end up using this because we don't know what we're going to be doing, a couple weeks from now. But we'll solve it when we get there. Otherwise, you can run the risk of, and this will happen in your everyday projects every week. It's really easy to like hyper focus on something like this and stay in a path that is not valuable to your business. So at this point, we've achieved everything we need to start tomorrow. We're going to keep on moving. Even though I could stay here and add controls for making the stroke width wider or changing the color, or we didn't implement our ink concept. But technically, we don't need to for right now. That said, I just remember that. Let's go ahead and get that in the Kanban board. So implement ink concept for doodle passwords so that the user has a certain amount. The user is forced to a certain amount of drawing before the password is valid or good enough. So we'll come back to that in another stream. Alrighty. Let's see. Get some of our links set up. We looked at, let's see, Indian Canvas API. Our big things were drawing shapes and drawing images. And we got hung up on, I don't have that Stack Overflow. We got hung up on you have to wait for the image to load after you change the source to draw. Otherwise it doesn't work. Hero icons, it's worth putting in there. And we'll go ahead and plug this. There's other packages that do the same thing here. The one thing I will say about my package is whenever you import it, it chunks up all the SVGs that end up getting pulled in. So you're not going to end up with like a huge bundle. But other libraries, instead of importing like a generic component and then having a name prop, you actually import the icon itself and then just use it, like drop it right in the DOM. So I'd say if that's more your style, go that direction. Don't use my package. But I like being able to see like icons specifically, not a bunch of different names. And that's just a personal preference, eye tracking thing. But anyway. Save this. All right, and I'll come back through here and give this a better treatment, but we're good to merge for tonight. So tomorrow, I think we said we're going to start on user models in the back end and some authentication. Again, we're going to be doing kind of a JWT auth deal. So it'll be basic auth. Well, it'll be our doodle auth to get a token that'll be sent back as a cookie. And we also, when I do it, I also like to send a JSON payload the first time you get a token with that cookie that has the token data in it. That way, if you had some like non-browser client, they could. I mean, they can get it from the cookie, but a lot of people are, you know, it's certainly more, I guess, ergonomic to get it just from the JSON response. So we'll get into all that tomorrow. Um, but yeah, so the nut of it's going to be we're going to be using a library called Paceto to generate our tokens, and Pacetos are just opinionated JWTs. Um, so yeah, I'm wanting to get into it now. We don't have time to get into it now, but we'll do it tomorrow. So that'll be fun. And then after that, we should have enough to have a login page. So I'm gonna line some stuff up to basically get it so the front end has just enough to take a username, have our doodle password, log in. So we'll have a login page. We'll bring in view router. So I need to make a card here that's basically that stream is going to be like setting up view router for the first time and having our login splash. We'll do some like layout management stuff because it's very typical to have like one layout for your login screen, one layout for the app itself, another layout for maybe marketing things or whatever. And there's a few different ways you can achieve that for sure. But I've got a personal preference I like a lot. I like the show. But yeah, if we can after that stream get into the like, yeah, you logged in. We wrote the backend for authentication or the authentication API, some basic user management APIs. You get a login screen, you can log in. You see like the application screen, which will probably just have like the ship it squirrel on it or something to start. Because I don't want. I still, like I was saying before, I don't want to get into like making the visual Slack clone yet. When we get to that, I really want like our backend to be fully featured enough to focus on look and feel. But yeah, all right. Well, I'm in the stream. I'll be back on tomorrow around 9 or 10 Eastern. So see y'all then.